A very warm welcome to all. The Tata Institute of Fundamental Research is one of the premier centers of scientific research in India. The scientific milestones stand testimony to Dr. Homi Bhabha's vision of TIFR as a fundamental research institute at the highest levels of academic excellence. As TIFR completes 75 years, we are looking at a new beginning for TIFR Hyderabad. In less than a decade, TIFR Hyderabad has incubated a broad set of research activities to allow the seeding of further and more ambitious programs. The Institute has always stressed on the importance of interdisciplinarity, advocating a well-rounded, multi-pronged approach while addressing a scientific question. During this time, the Institute has also established to connect with the people in Telangana through their community and school outreach initiatives, thus attempting to make science accessible for all. Without further delay, we shall begin this session. All viewers are free to ask any questions that they might have. We look forward to your participation in making this session an engaging one. For the first part of this session, Professor Mustansir Barma, former director of TIFR Mumbai and presently Professor Emeritus at TIFR Hyderabad, is going to take us through the journey of TIFR over the last 75 years.
Thank you, Anushila. So let me begin. Friends over the internet, members of the TIFR family, faculty, students, postdocs, staff, everybody past and present, and members of the public who have an interest in TIFR. And I have been interested enough to attend this event. To all of you, welcome. So this is a very joyous moment in the history of TIFR because we have completed 75 years. And surely it is an occasion to look back and also to look forward. And it's in that spirit, I think, that this particular event has been arranged. And let me then go ahead with that. So let me state at the outset, especially for the people who are unfamiliar with the Tata Institute, that the Tata Institute of Fundamental Research is an autonomous institute under the Department of Atomic Energy. It's also deemed to be university. And this slide shows you the lawns of TIFR. And of course, the person shown here is Dr. Homi Bhabha, the founder director, who conceived and founded the institute and took it forward for quite a while before his untimely death. So from the time it was founded in 1945, the institute had a tradition of taking new initiatives to start and promote emerging areas of basic science. And today, research at TIFR encompasses all the natural sciences, mathematics, computer science, science education. I will try to take you through the journey from 1945, the year the institute was founded, up to recent times. But before I do that, I first wanted to give you a glimpse of the institute, to tell you what it is, what it has achieved over the years. So over the last 7.5 decades, it has become an internationally renowned research institution. As I said, it encompasses a broad set of areas in science and mathematics. And if we look back at over these decades, there have been many, many significant achievements. Surely, in the time that is there today, we cannot go over all, but I wanted to mention a few. Now, people who have heard Professor Sandeep Trivedi's talk in the morning will realize there is some overlap between these talks. That's inevitable because we are trying to talk about similar things. Nonetheless, let me proceed. So the achievements that I have listed here have to do with a very large variety of subjects. And that is the thing that I would like to draw attention to. TIFR was the first institution to design and build the first digital computer in India. The first observation of atmospheric neutrinos, this was at Kolar in 1965, was due to an experiment, carried out by the institute. Turning to a completely different area, mathematics, pure mathematics, important theorems on the stability of vector bundles were proved in the institute. In condensed matter physics, the key phenomenon of superconductivity was discovered for the first time in a series of compounds known as the borocarbides and also in elemental bismuth. So these were very significant discoveries. Besides, TIFR has built a radio telescope, which is known as the Giant Meter Wave Radio Telescope, GMRT, which is the world's largest radio telescope operating in this particular roughly meter wavelength bandwidth. Important result in theoretical physics had to do with the establishment of duality in string theory. And turning to biology, on the cell membrane, the existence of nanodomains which regulate growth and shape of the cell membrane was another thing, was another important experimental discovery. Besides these frontline contributions in research and science, the institute has had a large and important role to play in various programs of the country. Today, India's atomic energy program was in fact conceived and nurtured in the early years at TIFR in Mumbai. Besides, there have been many national endeavors and institutions that have been again seeded largely by the institute. For instance, the establishment of the Atomic Energy Establishment, now known as VRC, was seeded at the institute. The electronics, semiconductors, microwaves, as reflected in ECIL, SCL, and SAMIR, all had their beginnings in TIFR. Very significant point was that NCST, the National Center for Software Technology, also was incubated at TIFR, and then of course it morphed into CDAC and so on. And much of the current software activity in the country traces its origins back to this. Besides, TIFR has also created many scientific facilities, both nationally and national and international scientific facilities, which are, when I say international, I mean facilities created in India but used by the international community. For instance, the first one, the GMRT, has a strong patronage from scientists from all over the world. So GMRT is one. The Pelletron LINAC facility, heavy ion accelerator in Mumbai. The NMR facility, the high field NMR facility, is another. The balloon facility, Cosmic Ray Laboratory, the list goes on, but I'll stop here. So what I wanted to give you an impression of is that the Institute has a wide-ranging spectrum of activities, both within science and in promoting establishment of large facilities. So this has been what the Institute has done. But where did it all begin? So let me take you back in time to what we might call the start. So it was 1st June 1945 in one of the corridors or one of the buildings of the Indian Institute of Science that the TIFR first started operating. This belonged to the Cosmic Ray Research Unit, which had been set up in the IISc for Homi Bhabha, and that's where TIFR began. Within 6 months of the start, Bhabha moved the institute to Bombay, and he moved to this house that you see called Kenilworth. Kenilworth belonged to his aunt, But incidentally, it was also the house in which Homi Bhabha himself was born. So Kenilworth on Pedder Road. And the activities moved there. The activities in those early days consisted of research on theoretical physics, mathematics, nuclear science, and in a few years, cosmic rays was added. But that persisted for a while. After a few years, that is after about 4 years, the institute moved to this building that you see here near on the Arabian Sea, the Old Yacht Club as it's called. And these were leased premises, and the institute stayed there for several years, more than a decade, until finally the TIFR Colaba campus was established. So as the report which came out in the Silver Jubilee says, it was a most suitable site adjoining the sea. It's very nicely put. That's where the institute started functioning. One interesting fact I'll just point out. You notice this figure of 35,000 square feet, Old Yacht Club. It turns out that was a factor 7 larger than the area in Kenilworth. When people moved to the Colaba buildings, there was an increase by an almost equal factor, a factor of 7. So this seems to be an imperative. And if we change from square feet to acres, today when we are thinking of TIFR Hyderabad, that is roughly 7 times larger than the 30 acres of the Bombay campus. Okay, so there seems to be something about 7 there. But let me move on. So this, as I said, is the start. But even earlier, a couple of years earlier, is the prequel to how it all started. So basically, it started with an idea. This was an idea that Homi Bhabha had and felt strongly about. So he wrote to the Tatas, first JRD informally in 1943, and then a formal letter to the Sir Dorabji Tata Trust. And this is a well-known sentence that I quote from, that he cited a vision of an embryo from which I hope to build up in the course of time a school of physics comparable to the best anywhere. He said it is absolutely in the interest of India to have a rigorous school of research, for such a school forms the spearhead of research, not only in less advanced branches of physics, but also in problems of immediate practical application in industry. This tells us that from the start, Homi Bhabha, trying to establish a school or an institute of fundamental physics, is not divorced from the problems of India, and always felt strongly that an institution like this will help in national advancement. Okay. Anyway, be that as it may, the trust accepted the financial responsibility. They allotted 80,000 rupees for the endeavor, and the government of Bombay also joined in, and the institute took off. That was, of course, June 1st, 1945. But what I wanted to say, which I've said on the last line, is that Bhabha defined a new direction for scientific research in the country. There was nothing like this at all in those days. And this was a very important step. And as we'll see, as time progresses, he did not stop taking new directions. He continued in that tradition. And in fact, I would say the successes of the institute have come from its ability, I would say its willingness, also its ability and agility in being able to take up these new directions. So let me proceed then. Okay, this is a collage of pictures drawn from the TIFR archives, and they show various activities that were going on in the early years. And by the early years, I mean the first 1/3 of the 75 years, the first 25 years. And you can see a variety of things. On the right-hand side, you can see people at a blackboard, no doubt some theorists there. On the left-hand side, you can see people about to launch balloons. These are large balloons 4 million cubic feet balloons. And in this case, it was to study cosmic rays. Below, you can see some spectrometers from the early days, again, looking at gas spectra. And then on the right, a microscope, which looked at nuclear emulsions. Again, if you look at the list of topics, there's a group of 4, which is the very initial group that the institute started with. And then things were added on: solid state physics, computer science, molecular biology, radio astronomy. And this is a mixture of the old and some new directions, as I'll outline a little bit more clearly in the next slide, for instance. So I want to talk about 4 or 5 new directions that came up in this era. The first one is actually nuclear magnetic resonance, NMR. Today, NMR is so well known and such a prevalent technique that one doesn't realize that in 1953, which is when the activity started in TIFR, it was only a few years before this that Purcell and Bloch had demonstrated that NMR actually can be observed in bulk matter. And it was remarkably prescient of Homi Bhabha to actually start this activity immediately. So Professor Dharmavati joined. And then, of course, over the years, we have seen that NMR has actually become a tool of choice in science and also has had wide repercussions in other areas like medicine. In fact, I'll just point out that in 1973, there was a conference at TIFR on NMR where the idea of MRI, I mean, all of you have heard about magnetic resonance imaging. That idea was first, presented by Paul Lauterbur at TIFR. Today, the national facility for high-field NMR is housed at TIFR. It used to be in Mumbai. It has shifted to Hyderabad. Another new direction. Again, a bold and, I would say, unobvious step, but Bhabha took it. Designing and building TIFRAC. TIFRAC was the first general-purpose digital computer to be designed and built in India. Interestingly, the people who built it, who were initially involved, had neither seen nor used a computer. They were mainly students with an MSc in physics with specialization in electronics. And they began on this endeavor. It took time. It was not that it got ready very quickly. It took 5 or 6 years to make, but they succeeded. And the expertise or the hands-on experience that they gained in designing this and making this and building it was invaluable and helped in, the electronics progress in the country in later years. Of course, by any standard, the magnetic core memory had a small capacity, but then, this is 1954. Another new direction. Molecular biology in 1962, this activity started and marked the beginning of modern biology in India. This was a somewhat bold step, considering that TIFR had mainly physics and mathematics. And Bhabha, however, understood, I guess, ahead of his time, the importance of molecular biology and established it in the institute. And today, biology is everywhere. I mean, all over the world, and also in many of the centers of TIFR also. And in particular, TIFR's NCBS, National Center for Biological Sciences, is a direct outgrowth of this initial hiring. And of course, NCBS has carried on the tradition by defining new initiatives itself, ranging from theoretical biology to wildlife studies. So the tradition continues in that direction. So what I'm trying to tell you is that in these years, Bhabha took these rather bold steps in going in for new directions without, I would say, with some intuition or with some reckoning that these areas will in fact become important. And today in hindsight, we see he was absolutely right. Radio astronomy, one more example. The activity started early in the 1960s. The institute actually built the India's first radio telescope in Kalyan, the suburb of Mumbai, and was used mainly for solar studies. The radio telescope at Ooty, which is mounted on an 11 degree slope, 11 degrees because that is the latitude of Ooty as well, and you can see the picture on the right. That continues to be the largest single antenna radio telescope worldwide today. It's still in operation. But of course, today the largest facility that the TIFR runs is the GMRT, Giant Meter Wave Radio Telescope, but run by the National Center for Radio Astrophysics in Pune. The last of the new directions that I'll talk about, which happened in this period, is the emphasis on science education. In the 60s, TIFR supported field projects which concentrated on basic research in science education and to monitor the effectiveness of ideas in science education in actual classrooms, and also to generate good educational material. This was housed in a municipal school in Nana Chowk, but then moved to the current quarters of the Homi Bhabha Center for Science Education later. Okay, so with this, let me come to the institute today. So today, TIFR is a distributed system of scientific institutes. There is one institution, and that is TIFR. But it has departments, it has schools, it has centers, and different campuses. So the main campus is in Kolaba in Mumbai, and houses the School of Natural Sciences, School of Mathematics, and finally the School of Technology and Computer Sciences. And the School of Natural Sciences has areas that range from chemistry, biology, nuclear and atomic physics, theoretical physics, astronomy, astrophysics, high energy physics, condensed matter physics, and material science. Mumbai also houses the Homi Bhabha Center for Science Education, which is in Mankur in Mumbai. Whereas the field stations, whereas the centers of the institute are spread over the country. NCRA, the Radio Astrophysics Center, is in Pune. Bangalore houses NCBS, the newly formed ICTS, International Center for Theoretical Sciences, and Center for Applicable Mathematics, CAM. At Hyderabad, there is also the new center, TIFR Center for Interdisciplinary Sciences, which is the first center of TIFR Hyderabad. Besides, there are field stations at Ooty, Hyderabad, Gauribidnur, Hanle, Pachmari, Kodad, dealing with a variety of topics from cosmic rays to wildlife to radio astronomy. Again, I would like to emphasize for those not from the TIFR system that this is a very unique way of running things, and this is, I think, what I've tried to highlight here. So this is indeed, again, I would say, for the Institute, a new direction. It is not a new direction only in terms of research areas, but it is a new direction in terms of how you do science, how scientific governance happens. And the formation and functioning of these distributed centers of TIFR is a model which is certainly unique in the country. So there are some parallels with some other such systems, but again, there are differences in other countries. So in the early 1990s, the efforts, the new directions that I talked about in science education, biology, and radio astrophysics took the form of centers, HBCSE, NCBS, and NCRA, and they began to function on their All right. Center for Applicable Mathematics, also in Bangalore. The International Center for Theoretical Sciences in 2007 from IISc started, but now has its own campus in Hisarghatta in Bangalore. TCIS, as I said, functions from Hyderabad. What I wanted to say is said in red below. The mode of governance is unique. It affords autonomy with responsibility. The centers are all part of a seamless system, the TIFR system. There's strong interlinkages and collaborations, and scientifically it is a success. Here are some pictures from the centers, and well, you can see various levels of activity in the pictures that have people. Generally, the younger the person, the more the activity, as you can see from the Homi Baba Center. Right. Okay, we go on. TIFR has also built major facilities. The LINAC Pelletron facility at the TIFR Mumbai campus, managed jointly by BRC and TIFR. For instance, Grapes 3 on a sloping hillside in Uti, the balloon facility in Hyderabad, and the GMRT in Kodad, which I've talked about already. And let me move on. I wanted to say that theory in TIFR is also distributed over mathematics, computer science, and several departments in theoretical physics, astronomy, astrophysics, and also in other departments in Bombay. There are the theoretical work going on. Interestingly, NCBS, the National Center for Biological Sciences, also has a theoretical wing now. And so, of course, there are theorists also at TCIS. The International Center for Theoretical Sciences has the triple mandate of bringing researchers and students together, carrying on in-house research in theoretical sciences, and having an outreach program to stimulate young minds and connect with the public. TIFR has engaged in many interactions and collaborations over the years with DAE. For instance, early years TIFR scientists taught regularly in the training school, and these interactions have continued. In large collaborative projects like the INO, India-based Neutrino Observatory, AstroSat, LIGO, India, TIFR has had a major role to play. Also in the Square Kilometer Array, the CMS, D0, Bell, high energy physics collaborations. One quick slide about the students at TIFR. The numbers have kept increasing over the years. Today, we have about 600 students across the TIFR system, 200 postdoc fellows. Every year, we select fewer than 200 students across the system with an application pool of about 25,000. TIFR is deemed to be university since 2002, and I'd like to emphasize that we conduct a very full set of courses, a rigorous set of courses in all subjects. The program imparts a distinctive structure to the PhD and results in a stream of well-trained, high-caliber young scientists at the end. We also run a summer program, the first such program in the country, known as the VSRP. Science, education, and outreach. I will not say much other than to say the Homi Baba Center is doing various types of science education, Olympiad student selection and training, and teacher training programs. Outreach is very much a part of the TIFR culture, ranging from the Chai and Wai program at Mumbai to Kapi with Curiosity at ICTS to the Sawal Jawab problem in Hyderabad. I have to mention that no history of the institute is complete without a mention of art, because the artwork in TIFR is an integral part of the institute. It's a unique, high-quality collection, and the country's best-known artists are reflected there. I'd also like to point out that the TIFR has started an archive section, which is a repository of the Institute's history, and I'm very grateful to the archive section for providing much of the material that I used in this talk. Okay, the last thing I wanted to say is again about new directions. And the new direction in question is the establishment of a large new campus encompassing a broad spectrum of activities of TIFR in Hyderabad. One of the main things about the legacy of TIFR is indeed the willingness to start new directions in a planned manner. And it was in this spirit that the new campus in Hyderabad was envisaged and has begun to function. The foundation stone was laid by Dr. Manmohan Singh as Prime Minister in 2010, but this story is not complete. It is unfolding. And I will now request Professor V. Chandrasekhar to carry on with the story.
Thank you.
Thank you, Professor Barma, for giving us a glimpse into the last 7 decades of TIFR. For the second part of this session, our Center Director, Professor V. Chandrasekhar, will delve on the future possibilities with TIFR.
Yeah. Thank you. Thank you, Anushila. Thank you, Mustansir. So I'll just continue the story as Mustansir has so far told. And another of TIFR's initiatives is to expand its scientific base to a much grander scale. And Hyderabad is providing the setting for this. And before I state about where we are, what was the need for TIFR Hyderabad? And this was, I think, a question that was being asked probably in the 2004 to 2006 time period during the TIFR corridors. And one of the reasons this question was being asked was that science in India, particularly the higher education system, was expanding rapidly. A large number of new institutes were being started. The Indian Institutes of Science Education Research, a large number of central universities were coming into place, new IITs were coming into place, and NITs. So the question that arose was, where are you going to get capable and highly qualified PhDs for all of these institutes? So this was something that stirred up the interest of TIFR. And the second, it was also, of course, realized that modern science is becoming more and more transdisciplinary. Having individual silos with depth is a good thing, but it is good to connect these silos so that you can have a transdisciplinary or an interdisciplinary structure to the science that is carried out. And I think it was quickly realized at TIFR that India needs to refocus its research, keeping this paradigm in mind. The other aspect, which of course TIFR was already very well aware and carried out very successfully, was to establish large world-class experimental facilities that were needed to drive 21st century science. So to address all of these questions in the manner that TIFR knows how to do best, TIFR sought out to figure out where to establish such a place and found out that it could be done at Hyderabad for a variety of reasons. So the timeline, I think the thinking started already around 2006, 2007. And as soon as it was realized that this was a good idea, there was a survey of possible land for the new campus across various cities in India, actually. And I think it was a chance opportunities that arose in Hyderabad that finally kind of narrowed down the choice to Hyderabad. And several events took place. And we, as Mustansir just mentioned, at the site where we are located, the then Prime Minister, Dr. Manmohan Singh, unveiled the foundation stone. And then we started our activities in a transit campus about 6 kilometers from where we are currently located in Gandipet in a rented building. And we started the program. So this was almost similar to what Homi Bhabha had always said in his sayings that people come first and later buildings. So when we started, there wasn't any building, we started with people. And we continued that, and the first permanent building of TIFR actually got started off in 2017, where we are currently located, and all our activities are currently taking place on this particular location. So the vision plan of TIFR, as was articulated as a result of extensive discussions, both within the TIFR community and from involving leaders of science, both within the country and outside, focused on three things. One is the concept of interdisciplinarity. So can research problems be looked up as research problems and not as belonging to a subject, and therefore bringing all the people who are practicing those disciplines together to solve such problems. So that is a unification of traditional disciplines. And also this sort of a division between translational research versus fundamental research that has been a topic of discussion at various places, including in India. And it was always felt that, in fact, as Louis Pasteur has said, there is nothing like applied research and fundamental research. There's only good research or bad research. And therefore, this concept of convergence of fundamental and applied sciences was another vision. And the third concept was the synergy between teaching, research, and innovation, so that you have a large research university with all of these components coming together. And the areas of focus were light, life, and matter, and all the areas that fall in between at these interfaces. And in fact, already, although we are a fledgling institute with about 25, 26 faculty, we already have several of these areas already being pursued with great vigor. So, for example, in the light, we have intense lasers, and then we have in the matter, we have smart materials, and in life, we have various activities ranging from genomics to cell biology, and various other activities that are listed here, from chemistry to NMR, earth system science, and so on. So, truly the science at a large scale, at a scale where also the boundaries are very narrow or we're shrinking. So that is the kind of a focus of TIFR Hyderabad. So the first job, I mean, not that all of these were done in one after the other, all of them occurred simultaneously, but I think it would be nice to show them in the manner that we currently have, that is, we have built the facilities, we have built the science and the people around it. So the facilities that are currently housed at Hyderabad include this very large national facility with a large array of NMR facilities with both solid state and solution capabilities, and research that is carried out with the help of this equipment ranges from materials to biology through chemistry. So a large number of colleagues of ours have interest which directly leads to the use of these facilities. We also have built up several labs, as you can see, and also can imagine. Some of this was already built in the transit campus and was then shifted to the permanent campus and re-established at the permanent campus. But this has not deterred our colleagues and students, and they continued with enthusiasm and to perform, even though doing this activity which involved considerable amount of effort. So we have several labs established, the laser labs, the protein chemistry labs, synthetic chemistry, biology labs, and so on. And some of the facilities like the spintronics, catering to advanced materials, animal facilities, the one I'm showing you, the fly facility to cater to biological research. So all of these are facilities that we have established in reasonable time in this new campus. And what did we do with these facilities? So we have been doing science in a large number of areas. For convenience, I have divided them into different segments. So for example, we have several colleagues who are interested in computational science, both theoretical physics and chemistry, with areas of interest ranging from statistical physics of soft and glassy matters, computational fluid dynamics and multi-phase flows, chemical physics of biologically relevant systems, electronic structure of matter, and a number of achievements have already come out from our place, which actually merited attention of various people, both from India and outside. Similarly, we have in advanced materials, we have a strong program in energy materials, there's a strong program on materials that can function as spintronic materials, and also on all the advanced materials, carbon-based materials, and so on. So labs that cater to these kinds of materials have also been established. Although both Colaba and NCBS has strong biological science research going on. It was a decision that was taken that at Hyderabad also we would pursue biology and with full vigor. And we have therefore colleagues now working in various areas of biology. These range from functional genomic studies to uncover the mechanism of neuronal maintenance and neurodegenerative diseases, investigation of ion channels and immune response, mechanobiology of collective cellular dynamics in epithelial tissue, functional imaging in chemosensory nervous system, investigation of DNA damage responses and genome organization in cells and tissues, molecular genetic analysis, cell signaling in Drosophila tissue. These areas are expanding. I mean, so there are new colleagues who are joining, and the colleagues who are here also are expanding these areas. And we also have many of these colleagues working in collaboration with either physicists or chemists or theorists, so that their problems are also involve these other aspects, so that the problem bears the ideas drawn from different areas. I already mentioned to you that we have the National NMR facility, which is now currently located at Hyderabad, and this facility is expanding. We already have an array of spectrophotometers. We will have more as we grow, but currently using this, there are interest in both solid state NMR as well as solution NMR, both for looking at proteins and other biological systems, and also for developing new methods that can hasten the NMR acquisition process and detection processes. We have a very strong focus in laser spectroscopy, this being one of our pillars, light being one of our third pillars. So we have interest from atomic and molecular physics, laser spectroscopy involving neutral atom accelerators, hard X-ray sources, laser plasma dynamics, also molecule surface interactions, chemical reaction dynamics, energy transfer mechanisms in molecules, surface collisions, surface chemistry, laser spectroscopy. And one of the ambitions of this center is to be able to establish a large petawatt laser facility, and thereby having a large presence in high intensity laser research in the country. Chemistry is an area that TIFR has not focused that much in its campuses, particularly the chemistry of the type where wet chemistry is involved. So TIFR at Hyderabad is actually involved quite a bit in the type of chemistry that involves what we would call a synthetic chemistry. So currently, for example, there is interest in organometallic chemistry involving low valent, low coordinate compounds involving group 13, group 15 elements, molecular materials involving molecular magnets, photoluminescent molecules, and in chemical biology, where questions are asked both in biology, but with a point of view of utilizing chemical probes to address such questions. We have a large group of people who are interested in molecular biophysics and biological chemistry, using techniques such as fluorescence spectroscopy or NMR or other techniques, who ask questions in biological of interest, such as role of protein folding or misfolding, protein-protein interactions, aggregation of proteins that are important in disease, such as amyloid proteins, or those that are of interest for the invasion of human erythrocyte by Plasmodium falciparum, understanding the mechanisms of action of antibiotic and antimicrobial peptides, deciphering the organization, the spatial organization in a bacterial cell, characterization of oligomers and fibril assemblies, and so on. So many new things in this have already occurred, including a novel FCS setup, which was built completely in-house to widen the application of single molecule experiments to various problems in biophysics. Although we are really very new, we also have entered into aspects of technology, and this is by collaborating with institutes outside. So one of our major achievements in this has been a collaboration with Rutherford Appleton Laboratory in the UK, where we entered into what is known as this lab, which is the Extreme Photonics Innovation Center, which is a joint Indo-UK initiative which is being carried out at Hyderabad. And hopefully, this was just inaugurated a few months back. You can see the date on this is 19th September 2019, when this was inaugurated. And this center will focus on developing new technologies that are of relevance from the point of view of utilizing intense lasers for a variety of applications. The academic programs that we are running, actually the whole gamut of them in physics, chemistry, and biology. We have the PhD programs and the integrated PhD programs, and we run the coursework that is necessary for this. As Mustansir mentioned, one of the hallmarks of the TIFR graduate system is the rigorous coursework that a student necessarily has to do, understand, and complete before he or she formally gets into the PhD program. So the other, in addition to the rigor of these courses, one of the unique features of the TIFR coursework system is because of the interdisciplinarity of our entire structure. A student, irrespective of whether he or she joins a physics or a chemistry or a biology program, can take many other courses because they're all offered in the same roof, and therefore we often find students starting with a certain interest but developing other interests as years progress, and they see they have the opportunities to listen to various seminars in different areas and take coursework in different areas, and this broadens their horizon and also allows them to discover their own interests. Science outreach, which has been a big hallmark of the TIFR system, has also been one of the focus areas at Hyderabad. So we have been emphasizing on two aspects of this. One is in science communication, and the other is in science education. So in science education, we have had collaboration with the Telangana school system, particularly for the underprivileged children. And we have had several workshops conducted on utilizing very cheap microscopes called the foldscopes, which the training was given to the teachers and the students so that they can utilize this in their laboratories. And in science communication, we have had a large variety of programs. The Sawal Jawab program is a program where we take science to the society. In fact, one of our first venues for this was right in the heart of the city, called a place called La Makan, which would host arts, which would host plays, and we also took science to this place. And general public who otherwise would not have had interest in science were drawn to these science talks. And since we found that this location was getting too small for the audience that we were attracting, we had to move to a much bigger center. We are very active in social media, not me personally, but many of my younger colleagues who are very active in this are doing their best to see that the good thing about TIFR Hyderabad is communicated to the rest of the community. We have a TIFR Hyderabad newsletter. There is a science media center, hopefully, that is in this fledgling state, which will come up in it will blossom up fully in the years to come. And we have had some very interesting dialogue with, for example, the University of Hyderabad, which is just adjacent to us, in terms of their art students trying to figure out from the perspective of an artist about the science that we carried out. So there has been an art and science dialogue between the students of University of Hyderabad and us. And in fact, this collaboration which exists in other areas, this was for the first time that we had an artist and a scientist come together to talk. And I'm just flashing some of these programs that have occurred. In the Sawal Jawab, we have had several illustrious people from various parts of the country, including from the TIFR system, come and talk to us. The Big and Small of the Universe by Mayank Wahia is one that is shown over here. The Smallest Machines by Roop Malik, and several other topics have been covered in such programs where topics of current interest are brought to the notice of public. And generally, we find it's a very interactive session, so that even young children to very not so young people, the senior citizens can come and attend and have their interest in science rejuvenated. So as I mentioned, we have had a very, very vigorous presence in social media, in Facebook, in TIFR Buzz, in YouTube. And we have sessions like Ask a Scientist session. I think just recently, a couple of days back, we had an Ask a Scientist session with one of our colleagues, Professor T.N. Narayanan. And many of the videos, the public lectures, I think are put in the social media. We have this very productive interaction with the Telangana schools, which caters to children drawn from the extremely underprivileged, drawn from across Telangana, but extremely motivated children who are interested in various aspects of science and other activities. So it has been actually our privilege to go and interact with them and be part of their educational experience. So we have had an opportunity to interact with a number of such schools over here, and we hope to continue this interaction with greater vigor. Similarly, we have had, as I told you, this Meet a Scientist program, where scientists from across the system, not necessarily within the TIFR system, but also from outside, come and interact with students through the Telangana satellite channel. So to summarize our journey so far, when we started with one center director, one faculty member, one student, one administrative officer. I think the administrative officer actually joined a little later than all of these people, one staff member and one driver. And when they came, there was really nothing. There was nobody to even offer a cup of tea for them, but they managed to carry on. And in the next 9 years, thanks to theirs and others' efforts, we have grown from this very small group to not yet a very large group, but a slightly larger, yet tight-knit community. And but I must say that this journey has not been easy. There have been many road bumps, and it continues to be the case. But as we move steadily towards our goal, we are continually reassured by the buzz, the good kind, that we have begun to generate. And this is a promise of hope for us. And we hope to take this buzz of the good kind, to take this forward and build an institute that the country would be proud of. Currently, our strength is as follows. We have 139 PhD students. We have 27 postdoctoral fellows, and our faculty strength is 30, including 4 adjunct faculty. And this is one of our recent, maybe not the most recent picture, but a couple of years earlier, a picture in our campus with most of our colleagues posing in the picture. So what is the way ahead? The way ahead is to continue what we are doing and create facilities such as supercomputing, machine learning, big data, the National High Field NMR facility going into an NMR park, petawatt lasers, high resolution imaging, and all other areas are not mentioned, to get into those areas, and to be successfully generating this excellent, high quality human resource for the development of nation. So that they can serve the severe faculty shortage in many of our higher educational systems. They would be the next generation of scientific and technological leadership, and they would also provide the leadership for cutting edge research and also opportunities for undergraduate students to do research in our place. We also have, as I mentioned, we started a collaboration effort with Rutherford Appleton Laboratory. We are partnering with local educational organizations, including University of Hyderabad, and a network of such organizations in a research and innovation circle of Hyderabad called RICH. Now, although we are still a very fledgling institute and have very limited, both in terms of people and infrastructure, quite limited, but we have played our part and continue to play our part to respond to the national crisis of COVID. So we have entered into a collaboration with the ESIC hospital in Hyderabad. We signed an MOU with them so that they can test for us the newly developed testing methodologies that we are developing. And so I'll just flash a couple of new results, which are very, very hot and just come in the last few days. And this hospital will test these assays on positive and negative human samples for purposes of validation. And we have also contributed to their infrastructure for testing, for such as the RT-PCR facility for their COVID-19 testing. anticipating that this COVID-19 is going to be around with us for some time, we have provided training to volunteers from our family, from TIFR Hyderabad family, so that now we have a skilled workforce of around 20-25 people who themselves can now train other people if there is a need, so that we have trained people in the areas that are needed for having this testing carried out. If it is needed on a larger scale than what it is being carried out now. We are also involved in therapeutic approaches, designing peptides to block SARS-CoV-2 and host infections. And my colleagues, Manish Jaiswal, Kalyaneshwar Mandal, and Adish Dani, the principal investigators, and other colleagues are also involved. I'll tell their names in the coming slides. So just to show you one of the recent research results, which seems to be very promising. We have a methodology which can detect COVID-19 by visual inspection, by a color change. And this is based on isothermal amplification of RNA. And so this can be the sensitivity, as we understand, which of course needs to be, we need to do further experiments to be absolutely confident, but we have done sufficient a number of tests to tell that the sensitivity seems to be very similar to the currently used methods, with the advantage that it can be much faster and is based on a much simpler technique. We're also involved in designing peptides, which could be utilized, for example, for a variety of applications. For example, inhibition of the ACE2 and spike protein interactions by the peptides that are designed here. And maybe some of them can be used for studying biochemical and cellular response. So I should have mentioned the other colleagues who are involved. Before I tell about this slide, I should mention that our scientific officers, Deepa and Shrijit, were also involved in the work that is carried out both in the investigations and, that I mentioned, also with the training. What is next for us? I've already mentioned in terms of the directions. This is the physical site. We have, in the morning, Sandeep mentioned that we have 200 acres of land that is there in Hyderabad. If you are able to cross the many roadblocks that seem to be what we have been facing for a long time, if you are able to cross this, then in the coming years, we would have a campus that would be spread over 2 sites of this land, a 140-acre land and a 60-acre land. We are currently located in a 4-acre land in the site marked C. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Professor B. Chandrasekhar and Professor Mustansir Barma for this really illuminating webinar. At this point, we will open this session for questions. We have received some on our chat box, and we'd also like to encourage our viewers to ask any other questions which they might have. So to begin with, we have a listener who wanted to know about the current state of research activities in India.
Okay, Mustansir, you are very well qualified. Yeah, well, current state of research activities is a very broad subject. I think there is no subject in science that India is not carrying out its research. So we are everything that is being done anywhere else in the world is also being carried out in India. My answer is that we are involved in research in all activities, all areas of science.
I think this question is directed towards the first part of the session, when you mentioned about the initiation of NMR activities in 1953.
Right.
So who were the first PIs who were a driving force behind the NMR studies during the early 1950s?
So mainly Professor Dharmatai was the key person around whom the activity nucleated. I don't know the names of his very early students, but very soon Professor R. Vijayaraghavan and Professor Girijesh Govil, Professor Balu Venkatraman perhaps also are the names that I think of immediately, but there might be others. But Dharmati was the first person to be hired in this context.
I have a question which says that there was a mention of Earth System Sciences as an area of research in TIFR-H. And could you please elaborate on it, and is climate change research a part of it?
Yes, I must say that we are still not there yet in terms of all the people that are needed to carry out Earth system science. We have one person who is working on the theoretical aspects of not climate change, but theoretical aspects that can come close to the Earth system science. But we hope to build in a calibrated manner in the years to come as the institute grows. We hope to have a strong presence in Earth system science, and that might include climate change.
So there's this one question which keeps coming up pretty often. It's about the difference between TCIS and TIFR Hyderabad. Okay.
So TCIS happens to be the first center which was started at Hyderabad. And so it was called the TCIS, Tata Institute of Fundamental Research Center for Interdisciplinary Sciences. Now, as the things are moving, I think TCIS is slowly getting subsumed into TIFR Hyderabad, and TIFR Hyderabad will be the broad umbrella under which all activities will be carried out.
Are there any plans to expand on theoretical biology modeling or soft matter research?
I think we have a strong presence in soft matter research. Probably Mustansir can add more in terms of we have, for example, a number of excellent theoretical research being carried out in soft matter. We hope to be able to attract faculty who also would then we would also augment this theoretical efforts with experimental capabilities.
So this is a slightly humorous question by one of the listeners. Is it true that the first grad student of TIFR Hyderabad used to go fishing in a nalla nearby?
I think it was true. Yes. So the answer is true, and this person was quite successful. So maybe he was hoping to have an alternative career if physics did not turn out too well.
It also says something about how clean our nallas are.
How clean our nallas are. So,
one of the listeners have asked whether it's possible to undergo, or opt for a PhD program after a BTech degree.
Yes. Yes. The answer, I think, yes. Yeah. I think.
So I think we'll close the question answer session here. And a big thank you to both Professor Chandrasekhar and Professor Barma for this really illuminating webinar. And if you have any questions that have gone unanswered, please write to us at sicom@tifrh.res.in, and we'll try to get back to you with answers. So thank you everyone for attending the webinar.
Thank you. Thanks for conducting it.
Thanks, Anishila, for conducting it. Thank you, and all the IT team for their fantastic support.
Oh, yes. Thank you all.